All right, today is October 20, 2022. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. Today on the agenda, we are going to go through our 126 planning spreadsheet and get status update for features that folks are working on. As a reminder for timeline, the enhancement freeze has already passed. So if you have a feature that's working, that you're planning for 126, that wasn't already declared and approved as a KEP, that deadline has passed. The next upcoming deadline is the code freeze, which will be on November 9th, which is coming up fairly quickly. So if you have a feature that you're working on, that is the date to be aware of. And next up after that, we'll go over any PRs to discuss, designs to review, and miscellaneous items. So if you have anything that you want to discuss, feel free to add them here, and we'll go over them after going over the planning spreadsheet. With that, we'll go ahead and switch over to the planning spreadsheet and start getting status updates. So first item is delegate FS group to CSI driver instead of kubelet, including end-to-end updating end-to-end tests. Fabio, Hamad, any update on this one?
I updated the CSI. I posted the end-to-end test results on the CSI spec change. I think you have seen it, and you tagged the CSI spec change for 1.7 release, I think. So we are looking good. And yeah, the end-to-end tests are already there. We might, I think, need some more, but yeah, that's the.
Cool. Thanks, Hamad. Next item is recovering from resize failure. This one
No,
moved.
There's no updates today.
Okay. Should we stop tracking this since it's moved to 127?
Yeah. Okay.
I think we are talking about using this just to track E2 tests, right?
Yeah, just the test, right?
Oh, got it. Okay.
It takes some time for the test to be added.
Okay, so then we'll leave it here for tests only. Okay. Sounds good. Let me put a comment here. All right, next up, we have issues related to assuming volumes are mount points. Is Jing on the line? Anyone have a status update on this one? That is no update. Next up, we have CSI ephemeral volumes, wrap up conformance test work.
Yeah, I have one bug fix that I'm working on. I have a PR open, and Michelle had some comments, so I'm just working through those.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Jonathan. And this one's done already. Then we have volume group API. I think we're punting this to the next cycle, right?
Right. Yeah. Right now, basically just to continue review. Well, actually, we still continue to review the CSS spec and the cap. Yeah, but I think most likely it's not going to make it because this is out of tree. I mean, in theory, we can still continue, but I think unlikely this will make it.
And do you want to keep tracking it here or drop it for this?
Yeah, let's keep it here.
Okay.
I'd like, yeah.
Sounds good. Then we have provision volumes from cross namespace snapshot PVC.
Yes, submitting API code pull request. Please do a code review.
Got it. API code in progress. And what was the second bit?
Pull request. Yes.
Got it.
And please code review.
And the code is ready as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Misaki. CSI volume health, additional metrics and or events, add end-to-end tests.
I think the test is still not there yet. I need to pin run again.
Thanks, Sheng. Next up, we have Cozy.
I think Cozy, yes, still the same. Team still meets.
Do we need to
Deep.
track this for 126?
We actually, yeah, I think we probably don't have to track this.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just cross it out, and then we can pick it back up for 127 if there's any significant change. All right, next up is change block tracking. Anything new on this one?
I don't know if Ivan, he's not here. Okay, yeah, so this is basically did not make it. And then we need more design discussions.
Okay. So we'll keep this in design, and we want to keep tracking it.
Maybe okay, just to not track it, but we will be going over this in the data protection group as well, so it's fine.
Okay to drop.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do that. Okay, next is new RWO access mode. Chris, are you on the line? I will mark this as no update. And we'll see if we can get
I think there was end-to-end test submitted and merged.
Cool. Thank you, Jan.
I think also we we decided it would stay in alpha for this release, but we'll add the tests.
Cool. Thank you, Michelle. All right, next is runtime assisted mounting. I guess this was moved to 127. Do we want to keep tracking this here, Deep? Anyone else have a suggestion, Shing?
I think Yang has been reviewing this one, right?
Yeah, there were a couple of comments. Deep needs to rework it a bit, but I haven't heard back if he is going to do it in this or the next release.
Okay, I'll leave it open for now, and then we can consider dropping it if there's not too much progress here this cycle. All right, next is CSI proxy for window, transition to privileged containers out of tree. Alex is working on this. Anyone have an update on this? Okay, mark that as no update. And CSI proxy performance issues. Anyone have an update on that one? Okay. Node expansion secret. Anyone get an offline ping from Humble?
So yeah, so Humble, he has some emergency issues, so he was out for a while, just coming back. For this one, I think Michelle, you mentioned maybe there were some new contributors who are interested in helping out.
Yes.
Yeah, so Humble said, yeah, it's okay because he has not really started this yet.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. Thank you both. Next is SE Linux relabeling using mount options.
Yeah, I should have pull request soon, like tomorrow, hopefully.
Right. Thank you, Jan. Next is CSI migration vSphere.
Yeah, so there will be a PR out soon. Someone is working on it.
Cool. Thank you, Xing. Next is Azure disk and Azure file. Anything new here?
So Andy posted a PR to mark Azure file as GA. However, we are waiting for the FS group using mount to be GA2.
Are you talking about the Azure disk or Azure file?
Azure file.
Azure file. Okay. So PR to move to GA is out and waiting on what did you say we were waiting on?
Applying FS group using mount option. That's the first feature on this list. It should be GA2.
Sounds good. Cool. Thank you, Jan. Then we got Ceph RBD and Ceph FS. Anyone have updates on those?
For that one, Humble says he will get back to that soon.
Cool. Thank you, Xing. Then we've got CSI migration remove entry Gluster FS. Anything new we need to do here?
I'm sorry, which one?
This is the Gluster FS. I think we said.
Oh, I think we're done, right? Did we say? Can you check? Did we say? Do we need documentation? I think. Right. Okay. Just documentation.
Got it. I think same status.
Yeah. So I need to. Yeah, I think this is another thing I need to pin Humble. Yeah, just documentation, right? Yeah.
Got it. Check the doc and I guess send another question mark on send.
But release notes is already there, right? So it's basically just to check if we need. But I believe even documentation we might have. Okay, I'll double check. I remember Java submitted something kind of updates all the plugins, but I will ask Humble to double check and just see if there's anything we need to do.
Cool. I think we're pretty close there. Should be almost done. Thank you, Xing. Next is always honor reclaim policy.
Yeah, so the cap is updated to reflect, so we're dropping support for statically provisioned entry volumes. So cap is updated for that. And I have a PR out to upgrade it to beta and enable the feature flag by default.
Got it. And cap was approved?
Yeah, the cap was approved like in the previous release itself. So the
Awesome. And so are we moving to beta this cycle then?
yes, that's the goal. So I have a PR out for that.
Got it. Okay, so I think originally we had we're going to put end-to-end tests and code change and keep it in alpha. Sounds like we're going to go ahead and move it to beta. So let me change this. And then end-to-end tests and code changes that were required for this have also been are also in the PR, or those are going to be follow-up?
So the end-to-end tests are going to be followed up. The code changes are in the same PR which updates it to beta.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, do we need to talk to the release team? Like, does the release team think that we're targeting alpha or beta?
I am not really sure. So we had the approval to move it to beta in the previous release itself, but we did not do it because we wanted to add most things to it, but we drop it again. So I'm not sure. Do I get in touch with them?
Do we,
Yeah, because
you're saying it's because we need to do an update of the cap. Do we need to tell
we
release?
usually
But we're
need
not
to
changing. We're not
we
really
need to
changing this to
declare.
beta. No, we're not doing beta yet. We're just getting ready for next release, right? Do we really need to get the release team? It's still alpha. In
I think
1.26.
Deepak was saying he wants to move it to beta.
No, that's for next release. Right now, it's just getting everything ready. Or are you saying, Deepak, are you talking about you're updating your cap? Yeah, if your cap says beta, then that cap cannot be merged yet. I was not sure about it. So for now, you can change everything else, but the stage from alpha to beta, that part has to wait until 1.27.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because before the cap targeting beta to be merged, you need to have ETV tests. We don't have those yet. That's why we cannot. And also we have way past the deadline for cap merge.
Okay.
We can talk offline. I can explain to you what's the why we have to wait. You can still update your cap, just the contents. Like I know you were trying to say something about the
I did that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So let's go over that offline. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I guess there's some confusion. Sure.
Okay, so I think cap has been updated. We'll keep an alpha this cycle. We'll create PR for end-to-end tests and code changes, but not flat and not change to beta. So that means we're keeping it in alpha this cycle, and that is it. Cool, thank you for the update. Next is control volume mode conversion between source and target PVC.
Is Ronak here? So basically, well, the cap itself did not get merged because we are still working on the E2E test. But so Ronak is working on this out of tree E2E test framework. So he has a PR out. So I think Patrick has reviewed it. I know Yang, you are also going to review that one. So we're trying to get that one there. So because this code is completely out of tree, so we still have a chance to do this. But I know we are getting close, but we'll see.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Shing. Next up is SIG node, non-graceful node shutdown. Anything new here?
Oh, so yeah, well, we have the test, required test is there, cap merge. Basically, we need a PR that promotes the feature gate. So that's not there yet. Yeah, I'll pin Tosh is going to work on that. Yeah, we'll have that.
And this actually reminds me, where did we end up with the node fencing discussion? Like storage node fencing?
Node fencing, that's not in this cap, right? Because we talked about this is so that will be like next steps.
Got it.
So I'd like to discuss that. So actually, Ashutosh and I actually have a session at KubeCon about non-graceful node shutdown. So we'll talk about next steps. So the fencing will be one thing. So there are a few things, right? There's node fencing, storage fencing, cluster fencing, sort of a few things.
Yep.
We need to look at that. Yeah, so there are like a few proposals, we can look at that and see which one we want to go with.
Sounds good.
Where are those proposals and who wrote them?
Okay, so 2 of those are already referenced in the CAP in the alternative
Okay.
section. One is the safe detach that was in early version of the CAP. The second one is the node fencing. This was there was a repo by rootfs. I mean, he has that one,
Okay.
right? So he actually has some code there. So that's another one. And then the third one is yours. Then you have there's a PR in CSS spec, right? That's the storage
Yes.
thing. And then there was a fourth one, which is, I don't know if is Tom here today? Yeah, Tom from Dell EMC. They actually have a project on this. So they did something. They did some kind of like storage fencing. They did check from storage side whether there is IO or not. When they see, not ready, and then if there's no IO, then they will do, unpublish and delete pods and things like that. So I have that in a Google Doc. I can share that with you, so you can take a look of the
Okay.
details.
So that last one is not linked on the CAP?
No, it's not,
Really?
because that
Okay.
was, I just heard about that later. Actually, he will be at KubeCon.
Okay.
I actually will be talking to him. Unfortunately, you won't be there, right? Ben, are you going?
Yes, I will not be at KubeCon, but I am
Right.
interested in that discussion. So
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
want to
let me
understand the
share you this.
alternatives.
Yeah. So let me share that with you, so you can take a look. Yeah, we can have follow-up discussions definitely after KubeCon.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank
sounds
you.
good. I think this will be an interesting future improvement. So
Yeah.
all right. Thank you for that, Shing. Next is enable user namespaces in kubelet so UIDs get shifted, rootless mode, along with SIG node. Anything new here, Hemant?
No, nothing that I know if I don't have any update for it today, but I haven't taken a look at it. So
So potentially this could be dropped for this cycle.
yeah.
Okay. We can check next time and drop it if we need to. Thank you, Hemant. Next is address issues PVC created by stateful set not being auto removed. Matt, are you on the line by any chance? Anyone have status updates on this one? Okay, and we'll mark that as no update. Next is volume expansion for stateful sets.
No update today for this one.
No worries, thank you. And finally, better default storage class. Jan,
No
anything on-
updates today.
Okay.
Do we have? Yeah, we have end-to-end test merge, but yeah, this was already announced. It was already announced 2 weeks ago. 2
Okay,
meetings ago.
sounds
so
good.
probably.
All right, thank you everyone for the updates for 126. With that, we'll switch back to the agenda doc. I think the only item that we have here on the design review side is from Rishab from Amazon. He has a proposal to have some mechanism by which to modify, as I understand it, arbitrary parameters from the storage class. So let me see if I can try to rephrase the ask here. So generally speaking, there are a set of opaque parameters when you provision a volume that are passed through storage class. And those parameters can control things like IOPS or the speed or quality of a volume. And so I think the ask here is, well, that's nice that you can set those values at provision time. Is it possible to, can we make it possible to mutate that after the volume has been provisioned? Rishab, if you're on the line, can you add to that or?
Hey folks, yeah, I'm Rishabh from AWS, one of the maintainers of the EBS CSI driver. So yeah, Saad pretty much summed it up. What we've heard from customers is like they will really like to modify volume through the Kubernetes control plane. Right now, they're doing stuff like using the CLI or the console to update the volume, stuff like volume type, IOPS throughput. But there's like a bit of a disconnect between what the volume actually is and what's stored in the Kubernetes control plane. So so we've thought about implementing something like a modify volume RPC on the controller spec. That somehow we can trigger that RPC against a CSI endpoint and update the volume. So what we've thought was the best way to do that is maybe make the storage class field mutable. So the admin probably has like a bunch of volume types that they expose to users, and someone can just choose a different volume type, like a storage class name, update the field, update the PVC, and then that'll trigger the modify volume endpoint. I did see Ben and Saad did mention that maybe that's not the best option. So yeah, I just wanted to discuss with you guys what you guys think, because
yeah, well, you just mentioned that that the actual storage setting doesn't match what's in the Kubernetes control plane, but there isn't actually anything stored in the Kubernetes control plane. The storage class is consulted at provisioning time, but after that, it can diverge from what the volume actually has, and Kubernetes doesn't care. So like the understanding is those parameters are, provision time parameters, and they're never looked at again. And then Kubernetes doesn't keep track of the current state of the volume in terms like if you pick QoS policy as an example, the actual volume has an actual QoS policy that's opaque to Kubernetes, and you can change it by going to the real storage system typically, and that's how we used to do it at NetApp. But Kubernetes never asks, never stores anything. So like if we wanted to have Kubernetes be able to update your QoS policy, which is a great idea, I think, the first step would be to have Kubernetes actually have a way of finding out what the current value is so that it could compare it to the desired value and then have a reconcile loop to change it, right? That would be step one.
I think it also depends on how much you end up storing in the volume attributes, right? Because then now you could end up having some of those parameters stored in the PV object, and maybe that's where some of the confusion might be coming from end users.
Yeah, but there's never been a link between storage class parameters and volume attributes officially.
Correct.
Right?
But basically, like when you provision a volume, you could take some of those storage class attributes and translate it into a volume attribute, and then that would get persisted in the PV object.
Yeah. I mean, something like that, or a new field. I mean, I guess I'm agnostic as to where exactly you hang it off the PV object, but you would need some place to say like these are the current parameters that are mutable, and these are their current values. And then you would have some other object that would say what the desired value is, and then you could just write a reconcile loop that would try to reconcile it. But the key is knowing which values are in principle mutable and which ones aren't, because there's some of both, and storage class parameters cover the union of them without knowing which is which. So like you need someone to come and say like this is a mutable parameter, this is not a mutable parameter, this is the current value of this mutable parameter, and then if you want to change it, go write a reconcile loop to do that. And then there's the whole question of security, like who is allowed to change those things. With QoS policies, there's obvious sensitivity to an unprivileged user upping their own QoS policy in a way that might damage other tenants using the same storage system. you would just want some veto point or some control point for an admin to say, I don't want to allow that, or I do want to allow that.
I think regarding the actual use case of changing the QoS policy, I think this is sort of a common scenario across multiple storage vendors. So I wonder if it's worth considering, having some sort of first class QoS support to at least support that case.
I agree with you that it's common. My caution is that like every vendor I've ever seen expresses QoS in different terms, and finding like a common language might be impossible.
But it could be, maybe an abstract language like our opaque parameters, but we, allow that to be mutable.
Oh, you mean like have an object called a QoS policy with some opaque parameters in it, but the name is meaningful to Kubernetes, and then have a field in the storage class called QoS policy name, and then you can change it or something.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be preferencing QoS policies above every other storage class parameter, and I have to imagine there's another one that would, people, the moment we do that, someone's going to come in with a second one and a third one and a fourth one that they also want to be able to mutate.
Will this require only control plane, or will it require something on node side? The example uses, for example, AWS EBS, and the modify volume call can, for example, be also used to resize a volume in case of EBS, for example. And that kind of worries me, like what kind of changes it can make into volume, and if it has an interaction with like available disk size and whatnot, if that makes sense. Like if it is just a bag of parameters, then you can use it to also resize volume, and then you don't.
Yeah, I guess there's some questions like, depending on the parameters you want to change, can you make those changes while the volume is mounted and in use, or do you have to unmount the volume in order to make the changes? And that might add some complication.
And it is also possible for this to trigger migration, like from one storage pool to another, depending on what are the differences in your two storage classes.
Yeah, all those are good points. Yeah, there's different kinds of mutability. Some you just trivially change, some you can only change offline, some you can only change offline and you have to wait for the storage system to copy your data or something.
Yeah, so I think TLDR on this is having a generic mechanism by which to mutate storage class parameters is kind of a no-go for us. The recommended path is if there is a specific field that you are interested in mutating, say it's IOPS or quality of service or something like that, first step would be to promote that into an official first class field in PVC, similar to capacity. And then we can talk about what mutation for that looks like. And the benefit of doing that is you can have, for example, different types of policies and how you represent it. Meaning, things like what Ben was saying, if you don't want a storage administrator to let application developer modify the quality of service at will, they should be able to set that somehow. Versus like they don't care, they want to let anybody modify it, they should be able to set it, that sort of thing. Thoughts on that, Rishabh?
Yeah, guess the ask wasn't to modify storage class themselves, but modify the PVC to change the storage class name field. I guess I feel like probably people were getting confused by that.
Well, you're asking for a very generic facility, and I think we're pointing out that like that creates a lot of new problems. And so rather than do something generic, we could do something much more narrow that would just scratch your itch and be done in a way that doesn't cause implementation issues.
Right. So yeah, we've thought about, you know, what Saad suggested was having some fields that are, I guess, like common subset of like, among all vendors, and promoting them as like first class members in PVC. But that, I guess that gets us like, I don't know, like 60% of the way there, but not 100%.
Well, based on your user requests, is it really QoS, or is it QoS and one other thing, or like what kinds of things do you want to be able to change in practice?
So AWS allows users to modify IOPS throughput, even the volume type. So
the volume type in terms of like its performance quality, like SSD versus hard drive or something?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, you can do that, like, yeah, so
okay, so all of those sound like QoS related features, and if we had a QoS, if we had a sufficiently expressive QoS field that was mutable and the appropriate controllers to handle reconciling it with the desired state, then probably could do everything you wanted.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the challenge there is going to be coming up with that sufficiently expressive QoS that is still useful to everyone. But yeah, it seems like a reasonable path forward if we can come up with a QoS field, have policies around it, get that merged, and then make it mutable.
Yeah, I think there are actually multiple QoS proposals that I've seen kind of floating out there. There's probably at least 3 or 4. So it might be worth taking a look at what's already out there and seeing if any one of them will meet the needs.
Hi, this is Manu. I'm part of the same team as Rishabh, also at AWS. Just wanted to state that, you know, we seem to be seeing other, you guys are probably already aware of this, but we seem to be seeing other vendors also interested in this capability. I think just on the email thread, there were like 2 or 3 different CSI providers who also expressed interest in this capability. And it seems like this would be generally useful for providers to, especially in terms of the kind of automation that they're trying to build for migration and things like that. So, I mean, you guys probably have a lot more background than I do in terms of, you know, how the storage infrastructure works with Kubernetes, but this does seem like a useful capability to kind of build out.
Yeah, I totally agree. In my experience, like from the second day I was working on CSI, people started asking, well, how do you change the storage class, right? Because they want to do this. And unfortunately, my advice to them was always, well, you do it out of band, right? Kubernetes doesn't let you do that. But I agree, if we could find a way to do it, it would unlock a lot of useful things.
Yes, exactly. So, and I think the point that you make there is a very valid one. Like there are a whole bunch of other use cases which could potentially benefit from this capability that people haven't yet really thought about because the option is not available. So if we could come up with something that works, I think that would really help drive a lot of interesting activity in this space. So.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that it would be useful. I think the main challenge is that every single vendor has different requirements and might do it differently. And so finding a safe way to do it by the end users is the challenging part.
Yeah, the metaphor. What I was just going to compare it to like volume resize. Like initially, Kubernetes would not let you resize your volumes, and the utility of being able to resize a volume is quite obvious. So we embarked on the volume expansion feature, which has taken years to reach GA, and there was a lot of bumps along the way, but it was a worthwhile exercise because I think the implementation we have is very good. I hope that a QoS feature would not take as long, but it does face about the same amount of difficulty in terms of getting all the pieces right. So like, I think we should do it, but we shouldn't assume it's going to be a quick and easy thing that'll be done in a month. I think it'll require careful thought and design to get right.
Would a QoS feature cover the volume type use case that Rashad mentioned?
I mean, one can imagine a QoS policy that includes like class of storage, SSD versus hard disk. And then as long as you can transparently change that under the covers, like you could just do it, right? That would be a feature of what the QoS policy can express. And I would argue that that's the kind of thing it should be able to express.
Well, then I kind of want to turn the question around. Like, what in the storage class wouldn't you want to express in a, or are we just reinventing storage class in order to avoid?
So there's things in storage classes like volume encryption, right? You typically can't start encrypting a previously unencrypted volume or start unencrypting a previously encrypted volume. Things like the file system type, like once you put ext4 on a disk, you can't change it to XFS after there's a bunch of data there. There's a bunch of storage class parameters that sort of get stamped on the volume at creation time, and then it's understood that they're not going to change ever.
Right. So file system type would probably never change. Encryption, some vendors certainly do want to be able to change that dynamically, and so that possibly to me sounds like an argument.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be ones in the gray area, but yeah, a lot of encryption implementations.
Each provider can make the decision to fail the request or not. Then, because there's so much variability from one provider to the next.
Yeah, the challenge is, with storage class, the parameters are completely opaque to us, and the way that the system has been designed is, storage class is a set of opaque parameters at provision time. After provision time, it has no meaning to Kubernetes. The fact is that it shouldn't even be on the PVPVC object.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing, whether it's a bug or a feature, that Kubernetes wouldn't have any visibility into.
Right.
What's muted.
You could imagine like some CSI APIs that like told Kubernetes what the current values of all those opaque parameters were and told Kubernetes which ones were mutable. And so you can then build like a generalized opaque parameter reconciler and build that. Like you could imagine it, but like, I think that's a nightmare because of all the weird edge cases that would pop out, which is why I think we don't want to go down that path. But it would just be code that you could write.
Yeah, I think I would suggest following the let's first class quality of service and then make that mutable. And if there are other use cases where folks are like, hey, this thing should definitely be mutable, let's consider first classing whatever that related field is as well. Would anybody on the call be interested in following up on this, on chasing this down to the next step, which is creating a KEP?
Yeah, this is certainly something we're thinking about. in GKE, so I'd like to contribute. I think this should definitely not just be one person. This I think is pretty broad implications, but yeah.
Yeah, I think AWS also wants to contribute this feature, so we're happy to
Yeah.
contribute.
I'm also interested because we're also interested in this.
Cool. And was that Rashad?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. I'll I guess start something on Slack or something like that, and we can figure out how best to collaborate.
Great.
Does that sound good?
It sounds good to me.
Cool.
Good discussion. Thanks a lot, folks. Any other last minute comments on this? Okay, then next item is non-graceful node shutdown next steps. Xing, was this added by you?
I just added there. So Ben, please take a look. Anyone else who's interested, please also take a look. We can maybe have a meeting to discuss this after KubeCon.
Wait, what is that a link to?
Oh, those are the 4 things that I mentioned earlier about the
Okay.
non-graceful node
Thank you.
shutdown, including the the 4th one that you were not aware before.
Okay, yeah, I'm in a conference room on my phone, so I can't just click on things.
Okay.
But I will check it out.
Okay.
And then lastly, next week is KubeCon North America, and there will be a set of SIG storage related events. Xing, you want to go over these real quick?
Yeah. So on Friday, we have a meet and greet. So I added a link there. It's actually on the schedule. So this is for new people who are interested in learning how to get started, can go there and meet people. And then we also have 2 sessions. There's a SIG storage session on Friday. I will be giving the session with Mauricio. Mauricio will be giving a Windows update, Windows deep dive actually. And we will also be going over the SIG storage updates for 1.25 and 1.26 release. And also on Wednesday, there is a session on data protection working group. So Xiang Qian and I will be giving that session. Yeah, so if you are at KubeCon and you're interested, please join those sessions or events.
I'll start a little thing here, which is attending.
Oh yeah, that's helpful.
If folks want to put their names down and can help find each other at KubeCon. I unfortunately won't be there this time, but it'll be good for folks who are there to be able to meet up and talk storage. Feel free to add a comment here and we'll get your name added there. All right, anything else?
I had one quick question, and I apologize if this is out of, this is not on the agenda, so not sure how we handle these, but we had some changes in the Mount Utils repository that we are looking to get some reviewers on. Haven't really had any traction on it for a while. I can send out a link to the PR if that helps. And we were hoping that somebody who's an official maintainer for that repository may be able to provide a review soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Manu, please throw a link in here.
Yeah,
and
give
then,
me 1
folks
second,
in the
and I'll just post it. Give me 1 second.
I just posted in the chat.
Oh, great.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot.
Jan, are you still on the call?
Yep.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but
actually.
any chance you can help review this one?
Yeah, I can try.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Saad and Jan. Appreciate it.
All right, folks, anything else before we go? All right, thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.